I used. Hey, good morning.
Morning, buddy.
It's the blue shirt boys.
We called each other this morning.
I used
Hey,
to have
everybody.
but Rex Lee. I used to work for him, and
Mhm.
I'd come into the office. It was uncanny. We'd have these appointments together, and I'd show up in the office in the morning, and we'd look at each other. We'd wearing the same exact. It was like we were wearing uniforms, and he'd make me.
Dan and I used to do that all the time.
Well, he was my boss, and I
Mm.
lived like 2 miles from the office, so I'd always have to go back home and change. We didn't want
That's
to be.
funny. I
We
remember
didn't want to
one
show up like frickin' frack, you know.
right. Dan and I, one time we went to Virginia Beach and we were going to go out. This is like 20 years ago. We were going to go out. It was a terrible night. It's raining and all that. And we both get ready, different parts of this hotel room that we're staying in. We both come out. We're ready to walk out the door, look at each other. We're dressed exactly the same, shorts,
Oh,
white T-shirt and a black button-up shirt, short sleeve shirt. Both of us, exactly the same. And we're like, dude, you got to go change. No, you
yeah,
go
right.
change.
No, you do it. Did you wrestle at that point?
That's what you and I would do for sure.
For sure. Uh,
Hey, welcome to Over
there
50,
you go.
starting over, folks. Merle, I got something interesting to share with you that to
Okay.
start off. You know, we like to talk about something very constructive because we try to get just a little bit better every day, personally and professionally here. On this podcast, Dan, you're going to totally relate to this. This is another one of those tips I get from the Cleveland Clinic, and it's titled, Got a Craving? Mindfulness May Help. Cravings.
Mindfulness.
Oh, yeah, you're going to like this. Cravings
Okay.
sometimes have a way of rendering the best of intentions null and void, whether you're trying to cut down on sugar or trying to quit smoking. Mindfulness techniques may help you manage your cravings. Research explains how they work. Now, by the way, trying to quit sugar, I have read that it's as addictive as heroin.
I believe that. I believe that.
It's serious stuff. And that's the problem in America. And our FDA it was bought out by the sugar industry in the 70s. I've heard this many times. This is fact. Too. And so they decided that they would they were told to push this low fat craze, but don't touch sugar. And that was the beginning of the obesity problem in America. So they pumped up, they took fat out of everything and pumped up the sugar content. And sugar has something like 98 different monikers, such as we all know high fructose corn syrup.
Right.
But there's all these different forms of fructose or glucose that they're all sugar. They're different chemical compounds for sugar. So that's a big problem here in America. Mindfulness can help. Let me continue. In a common form of mindfulness meditation, you sit comfortably and focus on your breathing. Instead of judging or getting carried away by your thoughts, sensations, and emotions that arise, you simply notice them with acceptance and kindness, and then put your focus back on your breathing. In that technique, there's also like Eastern meditation will say, contemplate a Buddha statue. And what you do is you look at the spaces, the negative spaces, like in between the arm and the body, something like that. It's all just a way to keep those conscious thoughts from permeating throughout your brain.
I love this. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know,
you're right. I do love this. Yeah.
Wayne Dyer did a really good take on this that I was using for years. And I told you about this a couple of years ago. I'll screw it up again as I did back then. But he took, was the Lord's Prayer, the one, hallowed be thy name. What is it? How does that go?
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, to forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Okay, I never knew the whole thing. What I knew is what he told us to do. He was good for taking this Eastern kind of philosophy and making it westernized, making it friendly to us. And he would say, take our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And that was it. But take that. So Our Father. You picture, like I would do this when I was on the Stairmaster, and I'd stare at a blank wall and see our and see the O and the U and concentrate on the space. So you're using your imagination, and it's so intense that it preoccupies your mind so that you can't have those conscious thoughts going through your head at a million miles an hour, which has always been a problem of mine. So you take the our and see the O and the U, concentrate on the space between the O and the U in your imagination. And after you feel like you've done that appropriately, then go between the U and the R. Same thing. Then go to our Father, then go through the R and the F of Father, and do that until you get to the end. And it'll take you about 20 minutes. So it's a really good way, like I said,
sort of clear your mind is what you're doing.
That's
here,
it.
So that you're not, you can
keeps you from that rat race running through your head. And those thoughts, by the way, those conscious thoughts that we hear as our actual languages, you hear it as spoken words, it's ego. Okay, so when you clear your ego is almost always wrong, by the way, and it'll lead you down wrong roads when you start trying to rationalize. And so if you can actually live from the heart, which is clearing those thoughts and letting more of your subconscious, your instincts take over, living, you're more connected with God, I would say. And you're going to you're going to live a better, you're going to make better decisions, and you're going to live more naturally. You're going to doubt yourself a lot less.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting what you're saying here, Barry, because I actually had an experience, a few experiences over the last few weeks here where I actually learned this from Dr. A from my Optavia program that I'm on. And he was talking about the same thing, but since I heard him talking about it, now I've heard dozens of people, including you, talking about this thing. But here's what he was talking about is, and it had to do with food, and it had to do with cravings. This exact thing.
Cool.
And you know, our brains are made up of three different levels. The first level and the second level are kind of similar. It's your reflex and your emotions. These things are lightning quick, man. You can, that's why they call it trigger. You trigger into this emotion. I've seen it happen before, especially when I worked at that amusement park, where people like suddenly transform into a different person, and usually it's very emotional, and then they start doing and saying things that they probably wouldn't do or say if they had a chance to think about it. What Dr. A was saying is, monitor your breathing and your heart rate, and when you realize your heart rate and your breathing are rapidly going up, that's when that should be like a red flag in your mind to think about what you're thinking about. Like, why am I feeling this feeling? Take a sip of water, a deep sip of water, and then a deep breath, the kind of breath that makes you a diaphragm breath that makes your stomach go out. That gives your brain a chance to move that thought that's in your base of your brain to the outer part of your brain, the third part of your brain where reason is. And by being able to consider, wait, why am I feeling this way? And then what is the outcome I'm looking to have? That now you've engaged a different part of your brain where it's logic and reason, and typically your decisions and your outcome are going to be better. Like you said, your ego is made up of that. It's all emotion and reflex, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's never going to get you to the right place. It might get you killed. So and I've seen that a million times too, but what great advice. This is, I mean, it's the same thing over and over again.
It is. And neurologists and psychologists call that use the terms sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system.
Right.
So that's your fight or flight. That it takes over via emotion and reaction, and you're trying to get into the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you back down and gets.
I like it. It's so logical what you're saying. Now, I interviewed the CEO of a company called We Ascend Now recently on CyberTalk TV.
That was just the other day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah.
He's talking about the same thing. Oh, great. I'm glad you saw this. He was talking about the exact same thing. And we're talking about how social media that's what they apply. That's what they're targeting. They're targeting that emotional and reflexive part of your brain to trigger you into spending as much time as possible on their social media site.
It's addictive.
Actually,
and they know it.
Equals more volume of products, mass-produced products that are purchased. That's really the goal there. And this social media site that they have called Ascend applies to that upper part of your brain, the creative part, the part that's that engages logic and reason and formulas to be able to do that, to cause a friendlier environment of people that can collaborate together on a higher level. I love the whole concept here.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it in action working here, because boy, we sure do need a change.
Don't we? And I'm going to continue with this. I'm halfway through it. In a mindfulness technique called a body scan, you close your eyes and pay attention to each part of your body. And by the way, I learned this when I was like in 7th or 8th grade. I read this book that changed my life called Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He wrote this in 1960, and it basically boiled down to, it taught you how to meditate in just the way I'm just talking about right here. For both, I use this when I can't sleep. I use exactly this technique of body scan. You start at your toes, relax your toes, work your way slowly up the body.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah, and maybe if you need to, you'll actually flex that muscle so that you can then relax it. And all the way until you get up to your forehead, to the top of your head. And it really does help you relax when you're having a hard time with it. But the point of his book was ultimately about, I started wrestling at that time. And you can, no matter what sport you're in or what you wanted to do, if you visualized and you just visualize the outcome that you want, maybe your career and a meeting, an interview, and you visualize the outcome that you want after you do this relaxation technique, that its studies have found that it's equal to actually doing.
I totally agree with that. I've done the same thing in sports in high school.
Yeah, it may be better because you can visualize the most positive outcome,
Yes.
I think
you did that in wrestling then.
Yes,
that's what you did. Wow. And did what? Well, tell me, do you remember like how that helped you at all, or?
Oh yeah, with wrestling, and this is something that I realized much later after school, after college, being an adult. I got in a fight one time in a bar on St. Patrick's Day, and St. Patrick's Day in Cleveland is
crazy. It's
crazy. The last time I ever went out on St. Patrick's.
Good. There's wisdom.
I think I was in my 30s and out on the dance floor, and there's some short, stocky guy doing this elbow thing, just drunk and everything. and he hit me, so I pushed him. And he took a swing at me, and reflex took over. And here's my point to that. What I discovered at that point is wrestling is a martial art. And
it is, yeah.
It's jujitsu. And I flipped him onto the floor. And then just by habit, from all the training of wrestling, I go for hand control.
Right. I hate when you do that.
You would know. The bouncers came and grabbed me from behind and pulled me off of them. And they're going, "Hey, it's okay. It's me. They recognize that I used to go to that place. Me and Dan used to go there all the time. I was there with Dan, and they kicked that guy out. I'm the one on top of him. So it was funny, but
interesting.
What was cool about it is wrestling is what I found out in that moment. It's a martial art where you can diffuse a situation, and I didn't even hurt him.
Yeah.
No one got sued. No one went to jail. All of that.
Wrestling is very cerebral. I mean,
super
I think that people that never did it before don't understand that.
No,
but it is a thinking man's sport here.
It's offensive versus counter.
Yes.
It is. So then it's like
chess. It's a chess match. It really.
It's a martial art. Totally.
Well, I mean, just the techniques. It's not about coming in and who's the strongest. It's not. It's really who's the smartest and can
leverage too.
Control, and there's that pain and that managing pain kind of thing in your brain and keeping it in that third level of your brain at the same time and not into the emotional level.
Right.
I have to say, for the audience, Barry was a great wrestler. Weren't you? You went to states, didn't you?
I was in the tournaments, and I separated my shoulder, like I had to get pins put in it and stuff in the sectionals, districts, or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So that ended my career. My brother was a better wrestler than me, had a similar thing. He got pneumonia in just like the same fashion as me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to go back to this whole mindfulness
thing.
I'm
not done with it yet. Go ahead.
So David Richardson, the CEO of We Ascend Now, is the leader of a school for mindfulness. So he's the one that put together this whole thing. So again, raising that up to the higher level of your cerebral cortex. I don't even know what I'm saying, but but that's what he did. It was so I don't know. It was such a positive interview with the guy, and knowing that people are putting that kind of philosophy that you're talking about into our daily lives, I think it's going to be healthy for us. But go ahead and continue.
Well, and there's some really good apps out there that you could do for free that'll help guide you through it. I had one for a while. I don't remember. There's one that's very popular. So you might want to take a look at that if you're interested. And I remember reading, or maybe it was somebody I interviewed on the podcast, that said just 2 minutes of doing this kind of meditation there was a measurement of the benefits, but it was like astronomical. So just 2 minutes of this clearing your mind and settling down. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, let me
I did this in sports though too. Sorry, I did have to throw that out. But I did that in track. And when I ran track all 4 years of high school, and when I started, I was getting beat all the time, but I would visualize myself. I ran the 800 and the mile, breaking that string and winning the race.
Yes.
And I before I would do every race, I'd see myself winning that race. Well, I didn't win any races until I was a junior in high school. So there was a lot of visualization that didn't actually happen. But man, once I became a junior in high school, I was breaking that string like popcorn, man. And it was it has to do with you seeing yourself successful. It is so powerful.
You make me think of that. I don't want to say a study, that instance. There was something like everybody in the Olympics sprinting, there was this threshold that was it was thought that it could never be broken.
The 4-minute mile.
Time. Is that it? Yeah, probably.
Yep,
and then the one time, it was like 1940 something.
Yep.
This Olympic sprinter or something broke that. And then from there on, everybody else started breaking.
That's the whole thing is, and I'm trying to remember his name because I was a miler too, and I wanted to break the 4-minute mile myself. And yeah, it is something. When you can see yourself doing it, then you can do it. I read about this eagle that they had in captivity, that was born in captivity and just didn't know how to fly. And so what they did was they got another eagle and they put it with this other eagle, and then that eagle went and took off, and the other eagle saw him take off, and he took off.
Yeah,
it's a thing about nature.
There's
my point.
So many, and if you realize that about how you can unlock potential because of it's such a mental thing. If you really realize that, think about the opposite side: how we keep ourselves confined and restricted by our mental state.
That's a really, really good one.
That's how powerful our minds are. I mean, it's almost like we don't even realize the extent of how powerful.
I heard this this story. Let me see if I can get this right. It was about this guy that went to heaven, and he got to see hell and heaven. And so the first was,
is this a near-death experience, or is this
I'm not sure if it was true or not, but but it's a good analogy. So the first room was hell, and all the people had these really long, for this part of their arm, it was really long, so that when they went
Merle
to
is
feed
pointing to his
themselves,
forearm.
yeah, when they went to feed themselves with a spoon, it was too long. It couldn't go in their mouth. So they were all starving to death in there.
I think I would just shove my face in the food.
That was hell. And then so heaven, and it was the room looked exactly the same, and everybody had these really long arms, except for they were using their long arms to feed each other.
Oh, that's funny. That's also
Isn't that
very
interesting?
profound.
But it's that higher level of thinking, right?
Well, like, what it's telling you is self-centeredness is a horrible thing.
Yeah, there's a lot in there,
but to be, yes, there is. I mean, I got it instantly. But to be interconnected and realize that we are a cooperative species, like ants or bees,
it's not good for man to be alone.
And dude, we are in such this society today with social media, as you're talking about a little bit ago, and just the interconnectedness of via our phones and stuff. We are in such a narcissistic, self-centered society right now. And you see how it's weighing on us, that the burden, the anxiety that it creates. Anxiety is something that tells you you're not going in the right direction. It's trying to tell you to switch your course. And
it really is. It's a great red flag, though.
That story right there, just very simply, you said it. You told us that in like 20 seconds. It just laid it all out there. It's
like a parable that just it goes deep into your heart. And you're like, wow, that I can apply to just about every area of my life right there, and show how it could be better. But you're right, Barry, that it's a very powerful one. But back to you. I know you were completing that.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to say, and we've mentioned this on here before, that anytime that you are overwhelmed with anxiety to the point where you go and get some professional help, one of the first things that they're going to tell you to do is reach out, call your mother, help an old lady across the street, do some volunteering. In other words, get out of your own head and get into society. By the way, I'll get back to that
at some
point, but I got to tell you, so, I've been doing the business coaching. I have a business mentor now, and I'll encourage anybody and everybody to do that for free on score.org. And
it sounds like you have a good one.
Pretty good. I think anybody is good that just simply gives you, for one, validation of your own thoughts that I've been thinking about doing this, and they validate you so you could stay focused and not go astray. And then the biggest thing I think is accountability, so that you got your meeting coming up. Oh, I better get this stuff done.
That's huge. Accountability is ginormous, man.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of what you're talking about.
So this is something important, I think, and I got, like, I think most of us, I got sucked into this COVID hangover, meaning where we got pretty antisocial. We stopped doing things. We stopped networking.
It's a good terminology, COVID hangover.
Yeah. And we stopped meeting up with each other. We got rather isolated, and how bad that is for us.
Terrible.
So, one of the first things he said was join the Beechwood Chamber of Commerce. I did. Then he said, also reach out to Cozy, which is the Small Business Administration.
I remember Cozy, yeah.
I didn't even think they existed
anymore. Bernie used to advertise that all the time.
Bernie who?
Kosar. Come on.
Oh, Bernie Kosar. Okay. Okay. But so I just went to a Coffee with Cozy event Wednesday morning on the West Side, and it was great. It's so all small business owners, and in this particular meeting, the subject was talk to us about one of your biggest failures, your biggest mistakes. And it was a great conversation.
Really?
And what I got out of it in the end, like, I hate dragging myself to that stuff.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
But once you get there, it's awesome, right?
And there's always there's about 8 people there. 2 people, of course, monopolize the entire conversation to the point of being irritating. But there was a good conversation that continued to evolve, and it was important. What I walked away from there with was the importance of relationships, and I continued to think about it for these next 2 days.
But it was through this whole conversation of their worst
big mistakes, of our
biggest mistakes, and it was the thing that you got out of it was connectedness with people.
I would say, we're all different. And I remember telling you this a while back ago, that I used to treat my clients differently. I used to think of business differently, separated it from my personal life. And today I treat my clients, my family, and my friends all the same. They're all the same to me.
That's interesting.
It's so interesting and so important. It's so important.
I think it is very important.
Because you're not seeing your clients as a means to an end anymore. And I mean, one of my best friends is I seem to bring him up on this podcast a lot. My electrical safety training guy, Brian Hall. He's become one of my best friends. He found me through a presentation that I did at Lakeland some years ago. And so I created his whole brand and everything. And we just hit it off. And I mean, I still do work for him to this day. And he's like family or friends to me. And if family wants me to do work for them, I'm going to treat them like a client. They're all being treated the same. And there's a purity to this. There is an honesty.
I see that. Yes.
An honesty that takes place as a
result. I really love what you're saying, Barry. I feel that too.
But you've always been that way, I think.
I've always wanted to be that way. I mean, but not always felt the reciprocation of that whole thing. And I can tell you, I've had this new experience with Spoke out here in Phoenix, and it's very different than the experience that I had when I was in California.
How?
Well, I have the nicest clients out here that I love. Oh my gosh. I just love them. And I was, I traveled this week to Albuquerque. I was in downtown Albuquerque with a hospital
Breaking Bad
there. And, okay, I got a story about that.
They must have a statue of Walt and Jesse out there.
It's okay. I've never seen that show. And I've been told,
can't believe that.
Okay, but I think when I tell you, I think you'll relate to it. But Scott, my brother, told me, Merle, that's probably not the show for you. You're too sensitive.
It's dark.
Yeah. And I am, and I tend to, glean the feelings from these. I'm so empathetic. Okay. And so like, if I see someone cry on TV, it's hard for me not to cry. So I'm too sensitive. Okay. But I was down there. My point is, I was meeting with clients at this hospital down there, and I just had the best time with them. It was an all-day meeting. Just felt like family. It felt like family. I got a picture of us all out to lunch. I had them take a picture of us. We were having the best time. They wanted me to have this place. They said, this is the taste of Albuquerque. It wasn't the name of the place, but they were like, we just want to give you the flavor of this place.
What kind of place was it? What kind of food?
It was Mexican food.
Nice.
It was called Barella's Coffee House. So it didn't sound like like coffee house. Oh, so I had a burrito and a taco and rice and beef, all the stuff you probably shouldn't have. But I had all of it, and it was so good.
Yeah.
And we had it was like a kumbaya kind of thing. And we got it was great business meetings, great opportunities for me and for them. And that's the whole thing, is that these are win-win situations.
I was going to say that when you really believe in what you're selling, that you are really helping someone. It's okay.
My heart.
Yeah, it's okay that you get in on the action too. It's okay. That's how it works.
Exactly.
Help each other.
My heart is so into helping these hospitals because of just the sheer mountainous obstacles that they've had to overcome. And I just, when I think about the hospitals, I think about my family. Like if my mom had to go there, I would just want to make sure she's safe. And that therefore I want their moms to be safe too. And they care about that. And so this is a labor of love. Anyhow, so I had lovely people here all around this area. It just seems like the area that I'm in, people are just more open to business relationships where we really can share our hearts and our mutual feelings of we want to love and care for people. So it's so cool. But now in Albuquerque, it was like I took an Uber from a hotel down there, and or from the airport to the hotel. I was staying right downtown, and I was asking about, hey, what's it like downtown? Because I don't know anything about it. It looked really tiny. It's a small little
that's what
town.
I've heard. Yeah,
yeah, and
watching Breaking Bad,
he said. He said that the city had been devastated by COVID, and that not to go out at night. And so I didn't leave my hotel at night. He said there was a homeless thing that was happening there, that was a real problem. And we've had, it's very close to the border, and we've had this immigration thing happening that is just devastating cities like Albuquerque. But I took my Uber ride back to the airport the other day, and the guy was telling me about, what I was asking, what do you do out here? And he said he was from New York City. He'd only been there for a couple of years, and he said, there's nothing to do here except for go up on top of that mountain and look around. And I said, really? And he goes, I said, is there anything else to do? And he goes, well, have you ever seen Breaking Bad? And I said, no. And he said, if you want to learn about the city, watch that series.
And I feel like I've been there. Yeah.
And I said, I didn't want to say, anything negative at that point. Yeah. I just said, I've heard a lot about that show. And that's all I said. And when we changed the subject,
I would have said, are you saying I should get some meth? That's all there is to do.
Thinking, like, are you selling meth right now? was that a hint? But I mean, it was actually a beautiful city. I thought it was just the architecture and everything. It was really cool. But anyhow, we were talking about you client relationships and treating.
Yeah, I want to tell you. So, like I said, one of my best friends now is also my client, Brian. And yesterday I had a dentist. He found me blowing my own horn here for a minute. My search engine optimization on my website. He found me that way. He's like, hey, I see you do branding for dentists and stuff. Can we meet? I met him a few hours later. We went out for coffee.
Yeah.
Nicest guy in the world. I mean, and he's like super intelligent in the marketing realm of things, which is great because I spend most of my time trying to convince people of certain marketing techniques so that we can implement them and get the return on investment. Right, he's very well educated on that. And so we had a great conversation over coffee yesterday. And I just feel like it's another one of the same, that since I grew up enough and got mature enough to treat everybody the same rather than seeing clients in a different light, I feel like I'm meeting another very, very good friend who's also going to be a very good client. And it's really,
that's awesome.
Like it just puts wind in my wings, it's so nice. And like with Brian, here's another thing. I used to think forever, for like the first 20 years of my career, that my career was shallow, that all I was meant to do is make other people more money. And that sounded really shallow to me. But I really came to realize, like with Brian, I helped launch his career on his solo career. He got, left the full-time job, went on his own. Now I'm helping him and his family reach retirement.
See, I love that. That's the key, the truth right there. It is the truth. And when you can focus on, man, this is a goal. This is his goal. This is the thing he cares about the most. And when you could help him and his family, not this is business, but him and his family, his kids, the elevation of I mean, that's what success really is right there.
It is.
And it's not just money. Money's okay. You could have a lot of money and want to commit suicide, right? I mean,
that's true.
But if you can inject love into people's life, and when I say love, I mean, we talk about this all the time, the agape form of love, where you self-sacrificing love, right? And focused on that other person. The fulfillment that comes from that is
out of your head. Yes.
This is a theme on Over 50 starting over running for the last 3 years here. Is that but we got to remind ourselves about this, because I talk about it, but I can't. It's easier said than done.
Sure. That's why. Hey, back to this mindfulness. That's what it's about. It's about stopping those thoughts. That's
right, Barry. That's right. So there's a a technique that we can wrap our arms around that actually works, that'll make us better people. That's really the end result.
I do this sitting at a stoplight because I'll get jacked up with the road rage or something similar from time to time. But I hit a stoplight and you're like, oh, you know, and it just turns red. And I just count to 20 slowly. But I concentrate on those numbers. I know I'm consciously doing mindfulness technique right at that moment. So that's a trick for you guys to do. For some reason, anytime I'm feeling impatient, I count to 20 slowly. And
that's great.
And if the light turns before then okay, fine. Then I go about my business. But if it doesn't, and I reach 20, I tell myself I have to breathe and be patient until I can. And then I give myself permission. You can get impatient after 20, after you get to 20. And usually I don't make it up to 20. It's really good.
Still, it gives your brain a chance to move that into your
out of that sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic.
Right, and then you can analyze, why am I feeling like this? What is going on, or whatever it is that you.
Because it's a fault of mine that whatever I'm feeling, I shouldn't be feeling those negative feelings, and
we have to learn how to discipline ourselves to not always react whenever a feeling happens. Because,
oh boy, don't we all need to hear that every day?
It's huge. I remember telling my dad this. I know I said this on the show before. I can't help how I feel, and it was like, yes, you can. And I anyway. But he was so right. And, you know, my father was a smoker, and I couldn't shake it. Could not shake it.
I didn't know this.
At the end of his life, he did, though. A few years before he passed away, he was able to break it. And he was in a meeting one time, and he was just craving a cigarette. This is along the same subject. Craving a cigarette, and just prayed under his breath, God help me. And he immediately got an answer from God, and it was, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Took a deep breath.
That cures a lot of problems, man.
And the feeling vanished. He never had another cigarette again. He had the feelings again, but he had that technique. Now, the thing that seems to be something you're saying too, Barry, is count to 20, breathing. There's something about our breathing that to regulating our breathing, and like that being a first thing that we we get that red flag, you know, like the anxiety feeling, the heart, you breathe. Oh, I'm doing. Control your breathing. That seems to be tied in with such a
people write books on breathing.
Now, here's something I would go back to the Bible and talk about how God formed Adam from the dust of the earth, and then he breathed the breath of life into Adam. And I think about how, okay, Adam is the father of all of us, and that first initial breath came from God. So it's almost like every breath we breathe is God breathed, right? It's like he started that breath.
That's interesting.
That's a good way to interesting thing to be able to bring in that calmness of God into us through our breath.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something to this, Barry.
Even when you develop anxiety, like I used to anyway, get social anxiety all the time, like in networking groups and stuff. And I've just learned what you're talking about. I would notice that I would be doing really shallow breathing. And so I consciously just start breathing slower and deeper. And it relaxes you. It puts everything back. For one, you're getting more oxygen to your brain. Right. And that's really important. Yeah. But there's also something that's just like a yawn. It relaxes you. And
and when you're communicating in that relaxed form that you're talking about, that you're well received when you're like that.
Oh, I've been on give off energy, whether it's good or bad. You're giving off energy. So you got to be responsible for it.
So as a salesperson, I've done, you know, the dialing, you know, you dialed 100 times, and then finally somebody comes on, but you really didn't expect that. Yeah. So when they come on, you're like, hey, hi, I'm Merle, and you know, and it's just, you got to remember that breathing thing.
Yeah,
calm it down, man, because that one guy, you totally blew him away with all the 99 person's energy that you said.
Do you remember, like, maybe it was the early 2000s when probably the spam calls were at its height, like before I had caller ID, and so you would answer these and get pissed because it would be some kind of a spam call, right?
Right.
And everybody was doing that. Well, the best one, I always, to this day, I remember the best what do you call cold call I ever got was I go, hello. I pick up the phone and I hear this lady singing. She's just singing like all relaxed. There's her techniques. And now I'm like, hey, who is it? What's going on? I don't remember what she was selling, but I talked to her. Normally I would hang up immediately. But that was a great
that's technique. A good one. I like that. Yeah. I had one time where the guy called and I was like, no, I don't know. You know how you are.
Right.
And then before he let go, he goes, hey, have you ever seen that show South Park? Yeah. If you remember Mr. Garrison? And I said, yes, that's very funny. And I chuckled a little bit. He goes, okay, goodbye. And but he had me right there. He could have
he couldn't use that every day.
Yeah. You know? And I'm like, if he would have just gone back into his pitch, I was already prepared to listen to him right there because he took my defenses away. But
that's good. That's good.
I've been reading that book again by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference.
Right.
And boy, am I getting a lot out of that book again. Remember, it was the mirroring, you say, it's the last couple words that you say, or the labeling. When somebody's very emotional and you label it, it seems like you're upset about blah, 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 blah. Yes, I am upset about that. But labeling it puts it into their upper level brain from their reflexive emotional brain. And when you label it, it's something about labeling something. It seems like, it looks like you're not
bringing it into the light.
This, and then but when you give it a name, and now it's not this hidden elephant in the room, calm starts to happen, and then we can talk. Don't try to avoid that subject, like you said. Put it in the light right away, and it's this. It feels like, it seems like, not. You look like you're because then they become defensive.
That's like accusatory,
right? But it feels
this is empathetic.
Like, yes.
Yeah, you're like going in their circle with them. Like,
yes. Now, that's a great way of saying it, because you become an ally of that person.
There you
suddenly
go.
This guy Chris Voss that wrote the book was the FBI hostage negotiator,
right?
That he wrote this book.
We did a couple good episodes on that,
and it's a sales book, but it's not. It's a life book. Right.
No, that's good stuff. I'm glad you brought that up again. I mean, that makes me want to go back and look at those episodes again, because they were very valuable. And speaking of which,
they are
just briefly, our last two episodes were really good. The last one I did the guest thing with Mark Tennant, and we went over ChatGPT.
That was awesome, Barry.
That's all Mark there, because
he was really good.
He was really good. And
he threw a lot of great questions at him too. And this is what I like the best about it, is that Mark stayed away. It's Mark, right?
Yeah.
Mark stayed away from the geek talk. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So that we could all understand what was going on. He
shed the light on me.
He brought it right to my desktop so I could understand it.
Yes.
And then right after he was done talking, Barry, I couldn't wait to get on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I had a data sheet I was trying to put together that I've been struggling with. I mean, struggling. And I started working with ChatGPT. Couldn't believe the results I was getting, and the fact, and the part I liked the best about what Mark showed, and there was something that was a revelation for you too, is how it's not one and done. You can keep tweaking those things up and tweaking.
That's the smartest way to do it. Is you start off with a framework. It's like building a house. Build the frame first, and then start tweaking it and modifying it.
And you could have so I was going after, I've got this data sheet going, and then I'm like, well, I've got a target audience that I want, a target vertical market that I want to go after. And it totally customized it to that vertical market, and using its language. And it was like, okay, this is how cool is this? And when you put in what you want it to do, it's answering you in that moment. How does it do that? I mean, I know how it does it because the way Mark explained these, what is it? Large
language models.
Yeah.
LLMs.
The way that I loved how he explained it, because
I listened to it 3 times.
You were asking great questions about,
thank you.
Is this all coming from the internet? Is it internet that's making it? No. And then when he explained it, that it's just coming up with each word it's saying, it's following up with the next logical word after that. That's exactly how I'm talking. That's exactly how I'm talking to you right now. So
it's crazy.
It's thinking, it's using the same human brain technique as I am.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's awesome. And it scares the crap out of me too.
I get it. I mean, I'm just trying to stay in the moment because
me too.
And say that this is a great tool to help me and make my life easier. And it is. I'm using it almost every day now, as of the last 2 weeks since that podcast. I also wanted to mention our podcast before then. Lisa just said to me the other day that she is watching it in 15-minute intervals because she loves it so much that she doesn't want it to end. And that's the one where we shared our top 10 lists of how to save this country.
That was
a
particularly good.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
It was fun.
You know what was the best part about that? You already know, was that we came up with, it was almost a identical list. I mean,
almost
very
about 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
but the differences were tremendous because your first one, Escape, I didn't think to put it on my list, but it was term limits.
Yes. That'll change the world, and not
if
just this country.
If there's one that we can implement now, that would be
number one, man. If we could just flip that switch, everything changes, because you take a look at the corruption that's happening, and it's all because these people are lifetimers in there, and they've had a chance to build this network of, I mean, it's like a cabal going on over there. I mean,
it's all about corporate funding. It's just about whoever gets the most amount of money. I don't remember where I heard this because I listen to so many different podcasts, but somewhere I heard that Nancy Pelosi was typically only getting like 18% approval ratings, but she had the funding. It was just all about the funding. I always wondered why they kept voting her in there. I never understood.
Me too. I mean, I look at that city in San Francisco. It's like, wouldn't a typical... I mean, you would think there would be a witch hunt for somebody like that in San Francisco.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
that poor town. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and they've turned it into a cesspool over there.
Absolute, it's disgusting.
Unreal. It is. It's just too bad. I've been reading these books by Thomas Sowell, and he talks about how cities like that have, how the cost of living was artificially blown up by the politicians by limiting the amount of land that could be built on, and then lots of other regulations in that county where San Francisco is. 40% of the land there is prohibited. You can't build on 40% of the land in that county, which artificially, limits the supply, which causes the price to go way up. And that's what they're doing this, and they're putting lots of regulations on zoning and things like that. It's just ruining places like this. And, when I left California, there was a $90 billion surplus in their budget, $90 billion. I'm hearing now that they're $26 billion in the hole right now.
You gotta be kidding.
I mean, that's $100 billion, over $100 billion right there. And they're talking about reparations for every black person there.
That's
up to $1.2 million. That's 3 times the GDP of California. So it's impossible for them to do this.
That makes me so angry because as well as I know that Gavin Newsom, that slimy SOB, it's cruel what he's doing.
It is cruel.
Can't pass, knew all along, and the people that would really want that the most. The downtrodden Black people in that area are real. You know that they're talking about that on a daily basis and what they're going to do and all of this. And it's just, and Newsom knows it's just a ploy to get their votes, and then it's never going to pass. It couldn't possibly pass. It's cruel. It's really, really cruel.
Well, yeah, and I agree with what you're saying, but it also seems like history has proven that when you convince a percentage of the population that they've been victimized, usually violence is the result.
And we've seen plenty of that, yeah.
Saying that you're owed, individual, $1.2 million because of the victimization that you've had, and oh, by the way, you're not going to get that check. Right. What happens after that? We already saw what happened when George Floyd died and the whole country blew up. Well, imagine what happens when, oh, sorry, you don't get the $1.2 million that you're owed because you're a victim of white supremacy. Riots. I mean, how is that not going to cause riots? It's going to cause a fundamental breakdown of our society. I am looking at this, and now we're hearing people in the federal government. I just heard Cori Bush talking about it last night.
Oh, God.
Anyway, just so you know, that the federal government owes these people money, and I'm sorry, the time for that is long past. You don't penalize people for what their great grandfather did. That's according to my Bible, that's sin. You don't do that. That's unfair. It's not justice. That's
my ancestors came in through Canada. We've always been in the North, so we've always opposed slavery. So why am I paying for it?
Well, and why is California putting something out on reparations when they were not a slave state?
That's even funnier.
I mean, so this is there was never any intention to pay this. It's about divide
and conquer.
This group is saying the most heinous things right now. Earlier this week, they were proposing to outlaw white people. What? How do you outlaw white people? Earlier this week, we also heard that they're recommending that Black people have preference over buying houses or first in line for rent. I mean, how is this not the exact thing?
It's racist.
Our whole our founding documents that we were created equal. That's not equal. That's discrimination. That's discrimination. That's racism. That's not about the content of people's character. It's about the color of people's skin. And you know what? Haven't we learned already when we just make a decision based on how somebody looks, how that's a disaster 99.99% of the time? I mean, it's like every single time. It's not even a roll of the dice. It's every time, man. This is going to happen.
It's amazing.
Look where we've gotten ourselves.
Exactly. And it's our educational system that's gotten completely infiltrated with all this woke stuff, this Marxism. And they tell you that it's not Marxism. I think that they would brag about it being Marxism in the privacy of their own homes. But
I bet that's happening.
It's the exact same thing. It's pitting the proletariats against the bourgeoisie, and I hear that pronounced differently. So
that sounded right to me.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Well, it's the same thing, but they just substitute it with race and gender.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and
you're right.
Victims, and you need to rise against. And who's the bourgeoisie? Well, for some reason, it became the white people because white people are majority, even though Indians, meaning from India, Indians and Asian people are doing much better than white people in this country.
They are. That's right.
And
they're doing great.
Yeah, people don't seem to recognize it. No, yes, agreed. We need more of
it. I'm happy they're doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, but this whole racist thing against white people, it's hard for me to believe that it's actually happening. My mother didn't believe that it was happening. And she was always very, very in the know, but stayed with CNN all these years. And people that watch MSNBC and CNN don't believe that this stuff is going on.
Well, the thing that's, and I think we've talked about this, but it seems like white people not liking white people to me. I mean, I hear the Black people that happening, but it's like I'm hearing white people shaming white people. Oh,
It's really weird when you hear white people say white people.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had friends do that. Like, oh, it's all those white people. Yeah. I've had friends and family. I've heard that from.
Well, and I've had situations where friends, you know, and the well-meaning friends are like, that are white, that are like, oh, it's these white people that are screwing up everything and expecting me to be like, yeah, I do. White people, yeah. I love I like people. Okay. Yeah. I don't care what color you are. And I'm certainly not, it's
embarrassing.
I think it's interesting that people assume that I'm gonna be like that. And I think, because I mean it's just I don't,
you're gonna have a bro moment.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't know what to, I just kind of go along. I don't want to argue with people about that. You know, it's like, I just kind of feel bad for them that they feel like that.
It's awful. It's awful that we're in 2023, our own government is spreading racism, intentionally dividing us by spreading racism. And this DEI stuff is really the diversity, equity, inclusion crap. It's really coming to the forefront. Now, I heard of a poll where something like 80% of people are really against it. And yet you would think that 80% are for it and think it's a great thing because it sounds miraculous. Oh, diversity, equity. Equity sounds like equality and inclusion. Oh, that's terrific. And then they teach you that punctuality is a white attribute and perfectionism is a white attribute. Now, as a Black person, does that not offend the living hell out of you?
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That this is so because of the color of my skin, I can't show up on time, or I can't and I can't speak in a way that matches up with the dictionary. I got to be all in Ebonics and everything. Yeah. I mean, it's demoralizing. It's a beat down. And when and people come to me and expect that that's how I'm going to be, I gotta say that as a Black person in America, it's humiliating what they're putting out as far as like Black people. We should be so offended by what we're hearing coming out of social media, by our president himself. He has said the most disparaging things about the Black race, and I don't understand why he gets support at all from the Black community when he says things like Black people don't have lawyers, Black people don't know how to use their computers, all Black people think the same, unlike Hispanic people. It's, you know, and it just, or that that
white supremacy is the number one problem in America.
Yeah. That's or disgusting. What is it? Poor people are just as smart as white people are.
Yes,
like that whole thing, you know.
Idea.
And it's like, you listen to what. I mean, okay, but this isn't just coming from him.
No, he's being fed.
This is coming from a lot of people right now, and it's permeating. It seems like everyone must think this, right? Because this is what we hear all the time, and I think very few people believe this kind of stuff.
Agreed. And the fact that they're pushing him out there for another run at presidency when he's clearly got one foot in the grave, his mind is, he's just a Manchurian candidate. They like him because they can tell him what to do. They can just run things. He doesn't do anything. They're just running things behind the scenes.
That's true. I had
read and he's going to die. And who's going to be in charge?
Kamala, whatever her name is. And look out for Susan Rice. She stepped down from her position and in the administration, and many people are thinking that what's going to happen is that the Democrats are going to pull the 25th Amendment on Joe Biden to get him out of there, and then that makes Kamala the president, and then Susan Rice as vice president. People are speculating that two Black women in the Oval Office will please the powers that be. And that is and then look out for Newsom as well for the 2024. And I wouldn't put Michelle Obama off of the list for 2024 either.
Really?
When you consider that they've just decided the convention is going to be in Chicago, so which is their home field advantage.
I thought they were always in LA.
No, they move them around actually. So
no. I mean the Obamas. I thought they.
Oh no. Remember, they're from Chicago. They're actually living at Martha's Vineyard. That's where their home is right now.
Oh, okay.
Or one of their mansions.
Yeah. So you and I were talking about a week ago, because I was telling you I listened to this podcast. I think it was a Rogan podcast. There's a comic on there that is a libertarian political kind of commentator, super smart guy. Don't remember his name, of course, but he said, because I remember listening to, I'm backing up a bit. I remember listening to a Tulsi Gabbard podcast one time when she finally just divorced herself from the Democratic Party. Her very large fan base was like, "Hey, are you going to run as an independent? Please, please, please."
Oh, yeah.
And she explained that it's impossible, that after the Ross Perot scare, it terrified both parties because he made quite a splash as an independent.
It really did. Yep.
And she explained how both parties were complicit in changing policies, so it's virtually...
They locked out the third party.
Yeah, it's virtually impossible for a third party to run or get traction. So this guy said, what we need to do is implement two more parties, like a moderate left and a moderate right. And I tell you what, man, I hadn't been able to stop thinking about that ever since. I think that would save America, that and term limits. 80% of people don't want either of those candidates.
Well, that's the problem.
It's not a democracy anymore.
You're forced into, because what we hear on the Republican side is that, well, you got to get behind Trump. Everybody's got to get behind Trump. And it's like, well, okay, so we can't like think for ourselves. Is that it? I was at I was thinking about becoming a part of the political process here. And they've got like here in Arizona, they have these political districts where people go out and they knock on doors and stuff like that, and they try to get their candidate out there. And I went to a meeting for this, but the thing that I didn't want to do was a ton of cold calling, because I mean, I don't want to do more cold calling. So I kind of wasn't into it. But the one thing I heard the woman talking about there was that we have to find people that are more towards the center of the political spectrum, so that people on the other side will vote for them too. Like people that are right of center or leftist. Like, we want to get more people. We don't want to just vote for the person that we like the best. And I thought, so that's what politics has come down to, is that we don't vote for the person that we like the best, but the person we think is going to win. And and so that's partisan, right?
Yes.
Like, we just comes, well, I'm a Republican, so R, and we don't even think about it. And in fact, I heard a proposal by one of the guys that's running for president on the Republican side. I can't. Vivek, I think is his last name.
Oh, anyway, yes. I heard him on Jordan Peterson had him on a podcast for like 2 hours.
He's an interesting guy. He's talking about how people that are 18 shouldn't be allowed to vote unless they pass a civics test or they've been in civics for like 3 years or something like that. Otherwise, they got to be like 25 in order to vote. I don't know if I agree with everything that he's saying.
It has some merit.
But I do believe that the civics piece, they're not doing a good job of teaching civics at all. And I don't think they actually are teaching civics, so that when people are voting, they're just voting. They don't recognize the counterfeit, right? They everything sounds good to them. And like, oh, you're going to give me money? Well, God, that sounds good. But they don't think they haven't been taught of the repercussions, or maybe what our founding fathers said was, hey, when the people realize that they can vote themselves money from the public coffers, that's the end of our country. Well, then you wouldn't want to vote for that, right? If you love the country. But people aren't being taught this. Like, that's got to be mandatory, or maybe just every couple of years we should have to pass a civics test so we understand what's I mean, it is a tremendous responsibility to vote here.
Yes. Yes.
And I when voting time comes around, I study those issues. I don't just take what it says in the newspaper. I go to second level thought on this, because I care about my family. I care about our community. And if everybody did, we'd be in a much better place. But I think he's on to something there. But
he's got good points, but I don't think
good points. Yes.
Legal. Yeah. I mean, it makes a good
legally,
point.
How are you going to do that?
Right.
Look, they did the whole Kent State thing. That was all about moving the voting age, that Kent State thing, moving the voting age from 21 to 18, because these people didn't have a say-so on whether or not they were going to go to war or not. And so that's what that was all over. And so they ended up doing an amendment to move the age down to 18. I don't know if you're going to be able to move that back after that.
I don't think so, but it just raises a good point about how we're not educating our youth very well at all. You made me think of, just yesterday, I caught a Crystal and Sagar episode where they interviewed Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
And I really like that guy.
Very lengthy interview. It was really good. I like him too. I don't agree with everything, but I agree with a whole lot. I mean, he's smart. I can tell his heart's in the right place.
Yes.
His heart's in the right place. I would vote for him. You got to get by the voice thing. I looked it up, that he's got a condition. I forget what it is, a neurological condition that.
But it doesn't affect his brain.
It just affects his voice box.
Right.
It's a neurological thing. So he says it is strenuous to talk, and it sounds like it. But boy, Crystal got on my nerves towards the end of that interview so bad.
Really?
She gets so ideological. Like he's got a lot of rightful criticism about the virus and about the COVID, the handling of COVID and the vaccine. And Crystal is just all partisan on that, and she gets very emotional about it. And it just really got on my nerves. But to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s credit, he kept saying, just present me with the facts and I will change my opinion if I find it credible.
That's what I love about him.
He said it over and over again.
Yeah.
And it was earnest, said it earnest.
It is honest.
I like that guy. I
love that guy. I read his book, The Real Dr. Fauci. That is a home run. I was so educated by that book.
Yeah.
And this
smart guy.
He is super smart. I think that he would be a very credible president. The voice thing is important, though.
It is.
It is. Unfortunately, you could be the best president and lose out because your voice isn't that commanding voice like your voice.
Oh, he sounds like 85 years old. But I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I'm just saying factually that is the case.
Listen,
but
if
Joe Biden to what he says,
if Joe Biden could be president, then Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could be president.
Run circles around him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Joe Biden. Okay. Let's go to Fetterman. Did you see him this week?
No.
Okay.
So that guy scares me.
I feel bad for him.
I
feel like he's been used in many different ways.
And way over his head.
I saw a clip of him. He's back in the Senate. He was out for a while with his anxiety that he was having, right? Hearts out. I can relate. That's some bad mojo right there. Yep. But he's got brain damage. I mean, that's really what's happened as a result of his stroke. And so they've got the bankers up there and they're talking about banking bailouts and everything. And so he was the last one in the Senate panel to talk to him. And I watched the whole thing. What he was saying, the net out was, hey, you guys expect us to bail you out every time. You can just do anything you want. And then when you screw up, you come here. Is this what you think? You could come here? Okay, I agree with that. But he wasn't making any sense. Rambling. He was saying words all out of context and everything.
It's painful for me to hear.
To the point that they had three bankers up there that he asked one of them a question, but he had such a hard time asking the question that they weren't sure that he had asked a question. And then he asked several more questions. They just stopped answering the questions.
Oh boy.
Because they couldn't understand what the question was, and it didn't really make sense, and it was painful to see that whole thing.
It's painful for me to hear that you saying that. You know what is right along the same lines as Feinstein? What's her first?
Yeah,
they were covered. Apparently, it came out. Some people kind of snitched on her from her staff that said they've been covering her for years, covering up for her incapacitated state for years. And they said that there was a thing that they had in place 4 years that when she got up to walk down the hall, that an aide would go with her. She didn't even know it, that was a thing, but they would do that to make sure that she wouldn't get stopped in the hall by the press and say something she shouldn't say.
Oh boy. This is really something. I mean, here's what I'm reading here. So Dianne Feinstein, she's 89. Wow. This all started out with shingles, and I don't know have you ever had that before?
No, my father did though.
Okay. Anne-Marie, I mean, this is a serious thing.
It's supposed to be very painful.
Yeah.
And it lasts forever, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. It causes mental strain too, like the whole anxiety thing. It's a terrible thing, and it's if you've had chicken pox, you're susceptible to this whole thing. But so it started out with that, but then she's also suffered from Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, which is a partial paralysis of the face, which is so she's also got a case of encephalitis, which is a swelling of the brain. So she's not in good shape at all. No. So Feinstein, when she made her brief appearance in the Capitol this week, appeared to have facial paralysis on the left side of her face, which is a side effect of Ramsay-Hunt. And then here's somebody saying, how have they felt about you returning? And she says, no, I haven't been gone. You should follow the I haven't been gone. I've been working from home is what you're saying. No, I've been here. I've been voting. Yeah. Oh, that doesn't.
No, she doesn't know what's going on. Oh. And I don't mean that in a mean way.
Me neither. I mean, she's been a public servant for a long time. She was at one point the mayor of San Francisco, and I don't agree with her politics at all, but I sure don't want to see this happen to her as she's going off into her last days. But this is here's something here. Of course, Republicans are blamed for this. What? Some current and former colleagues said the situation was alarming to watch and blamed Senate Republicans who blocked Ms. Feinstein's request for a temporary replacement on the Judiciary Committee. This is a quote, Republicans are responsible for this nightmare scenario that's unfolding, said former Senator Barbara Boxer, who made history with Ms. Feinstein in 92 as the first female senators elected from California. She says, I'm sick at heart at this. I blame them for being mean to her and spinning it to blame the Democrats. Like what?
Yeah, that is a whole what? Yeah, it's hard to even follow.
It's like kids are up there.
Yes, I'm going to bring up Tulsi Gabbard again. I remember a podcast a year or two ago of her. She was talking about how at the Capitol building or something in Washington, they have an exercise class, a yoga. She did a yoga class, and anybody, any senator, somebody from Congress can go in there. And so it's bipartisan is what I'm saying. It's people doing yoga. On the way out, they shower, they go, and they're walking down the hall, and this Democrat guy went for the first time, and she said, hey, she gave him a high five, and she goes, it's great seeing you in there. Hope to see you in there again tomorrow. And she walked off, and she heard two Democrat ladies behind her say, do you believe that she talked to him? Like, that's how divisive it is and childish. And she said it's super childish.
It's like being in like elementary school, right? I mean,
that's what she said. That's what she said.
They ought to be ashamed of themselves for acting. I used to think as I was growing up that these people were the most sophisticated people in the world.
They probably were a lot more, though, maybe 40, 50 years ago.
And we might be surprised by that.
Yeah, true.
I don't have a high opinion. We've talked about this, Barry, but it's just this this fading trust for our government. And
I got zero. I got I'm in way negative figures on that.
I mean, it's just too bad. And, I spent a lot of time with hospitals as well. And there's a fading trust, there's just fading trust all along for our institutions, our hospitals, our media, our government, our business leaders. We've got to do something as a community of people to raise ourselves back to where we were before, because right now it seems like everything is broken.
Everything's super broken, because we talked about this, you and I talked about this about a week ago, I think, maybe less. I think the word monopoly needs to come back into fashion. We need to talk about the size, not just the dangers. We learned about this as kids when we took government class, and we wow, monopolies. We saw Ohio Bell get broken up. Because of that. Now all of a sudden everything's a freaking monopoly. And I even think maybe, and I mean government as well, big government is not a good thing.
Never.
Or corrupt, and never.
Right.
It's not agile, and it's just
behemoth.
It's more and more corrupt.
Yep.
So all of these big businesses, and now what's been coming to the forefront of my mind are publicly traded companies, because they now today are influenced by these giant hedge fund companies.
That's right.
Which why are they not broken up as monopolies? They're the biggest damn things that we got. So I don't know, man. We got this. It starts with awareness. What we're doing right here.
You're right. Yep. You're right.
We all got to just become
people start to understand that this is why
we only have been just
did what they were doing. Yep. This is why Nike has Mulvaney advertising sports bras, and now Adidas. Did you see the Adidas thing that's out there? I
saw now? Miller Lite. Do you see Miller Lite going and
yes, I saw Miller Lite
of our commercials 10 years ago or whatever.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So and so they want us to turn in all of those things, and because women are brewers. But the fact is that Miller Lite made tons and tons of money with women in bikinis advertising beer. Why? Because the demographics of beer drinkers are mostly men,
right?
And men love women,
right?
That's never going to change. And so if you want to, and so it's a brilliant marketing strategy to have women there. And so I remember having posters of these women in my dorm,
and by the way, they weren't forced. They were paid, and they took pride.
Time. Yes. I knew a Bud Light girl. She was very proud to be a Bud Light girl. And you didn't just get to be one.
Right. You had to earn it.
That was a big deal. And so, but it just seems to me like there's a movement to just minimize anything that women have accomplished if it doesn't match up to this whole new woke agenda. And we'll demonize women, although we're supposed to believe women. But if you are mad because there's a man competing against you dressed as a woman and it's stronger than you, then you're a bad woman.
You say it's for that. Stronger than you.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mean that.
That's funny.
All right, this show gets banned.
All right. But yeah, I mean, it's so funny. You can only divide people up so far before you're tripping over yourself, because if you want women's rights, then don't let men put on a dress and beat them up. Okay, how about that?
It's just something that seems to be common sense, but I guess we have to go through common sense class again.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. It gets to the point though, like we're smiling and laughing about it, that it's so ridiculous that you have to smile and laugh about it, or else you'll go insane.
For sure. I got to finish up this mindfulness
thought. Oh, I didn't. Wow.
I know. Okay, according
we don't really have to come up with a lot of subjects for this show.
Oh, it flows, doesn't it? According to a study, mindfulness techniques like these involve a part of the brain that also contributes to cravings. If you feel a craving coming on, it's possible to interrupt it using one of these techniques. Over time, this is the final sentence or two. Over time, practicing mindfulness may help you become more aware of your body and mind, more accepting of uncomfortable feelings. That's important because we try to hide from them, and less impulsive and reactive, all of which can help you manage your cravings. That's it.
Man, that's really good stuff. I was thinking
it's important.
Anne Marie used to smoke and she quit smoking. And the key was that whenever she would have a craving, that would be her red flag to get up and do something.
Yeah, for sure.
Because our brains can really only think about one thing at a time. I mean, this whole multitasking thing is, it's a fable, man.
Lisa and I talk about that because women are famous for multitasking, and all studies show, and I say this to her all the time, all studies show that you're less effective when you're multitasking, and every woman will say, yeah, well, except for me.
That's funny. Well, you know, I was listening to these marriage counselors on the radio one day, and they were talking about, they had written a book called men's brains are like tackle boxes and women's are like a plate of spaghetti.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
And the diagrams. I get that, right? Yeah. It's like for a woman, she can't think of one thing without it touching all these other things, like a plate of spaghetti. A noodle and a plate of spaghetti touches every other noodle, but a man, everything's compartmentalized.
Yes.
And so I could see where Lisa might be coming from, though, on this multitasking thing, because in order to get anywhere, they've got to think about everything the same time.
I saw a meme.
Us, it's just like hungry. Bacon.
I saw a meme years ago that spoke right to that, and it was a man shopping for shoes, and it's a straight line to the shoes, a straight line back. Woman shopping for shoes, and it looked like a plate of spaghetti.
That is awesome. That is a great one. I saw that.
It does. You know, I buy a pair of shoes like once every other year, and it takes me like 10 minutes.
Yeah, there they are. I got those are the shoes. Wrap them up. Want to try them on? I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
I've got my brother's 60th birthday party tomorrow. It's out at a lake, Hidden Valley Lake or something. I've never been there. It's right by where he lives on the border. It's like in Leroy, really rural. Yeah. And so there's also an indoor thing to it, I guess. So if the weather goes south or something, but I can't wait. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And apparently the entire extended family's coming, like just billions of people are going to come. So I'm really looking forward. I'm going out early.
It's a good number. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a good number. I'm going out early to help set up. Going to bring Charlie. He'll get to play outside for a while. Then I'll take him over to my mom's, and we'll come back for the party. And
okay, I got to say this, man. As we're talking, it's sort of hard to believe that you've got a brother that's about to turn 60. And I usually I'm looking at the camera, but I look down at you and I'm like, we're both like 57. Coming up on 60.
Yes,
right? Yes. I look at you and I'm like, you don't look like you're coming up on 60. Like
when
I think about, as a kid, when I would think about 60, the picture in my mind was Archie Bunker.
Well, it was so sure. Yeah, you're right. And he looked like my grandfather.
Right.
The dentist that I told you I met yesterday for coffee, he is 70. And he looks, when we left and we're standing out, we were just talking, and we're in the parking lot, beautiful day, talking. And, the sunlight got on him. And I go, my God, you look like you're 35. And he showed me his driver's license. Like, apparently he has to do that a lot.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
When we first got on the phone in the morning, we were talking, he's like, oh, you did the website for Roger, my friend, who's a periodontist. And he goes, we went to school at the same time and we had the exact same birth date. And I'm like, no kidding. I said, Roger was telling me 5 years ago he was thinking about retiring. So we started, and so this guy's 70. He's got a plan. He wants to open up 10 more. He's got 3 offices right now. And he wants to open up another 7. So a total of 10 in 7 years. So we were talking about retiring. And I said, I think if you're in a career of choice, I mean, someone that's not doing laboring stuff, doing something you hate, because then you're like working 7 days or 5 days a week to get to the weekend, to get to your vacation, to get to retirement, and you can't wait. I get that. But if you're in the career of your choice, I said to him, I don't see ever the need for retiring because people start to die.
I agree with this, right? Yeah.
Reduce your hours.
Why retire from
this
having
guy's
fun?
never going to retire.
Yeah, you're having
clearly
fun.
He's having a blast. And dude, I'm pretty sure that we're going to work together. I'm going to have a hard time keeping up with this guy. I am serious.
You know what's funny is that one of my best friends here is Mike Burke, and Mike Burke is 72 years old, and we go mountain biking on these amazing trails where we're just flying down these hills, going over jumps and everything. Oh. And my whole goal is to lose Mike behind me. Like I'm going to lose this old man. And he's always he's threatening to pass me. And it's like, how's it feel having an old man right on your butt?
Oh, that's such great exercise though.
Awesome, man. And just seeing him is so inspiring because he's a kid out there. And
that's awesome.
He's so fun to be around. And I mean, gosh, it's not like 72 is that far off for me, but still, I mean, I just seeing him, it's like, okay, I'm going to be like that
inspiring
at that age and beyond. It's pretty cool stuff, man.
You make me think that I'm not getting in as much cycling as I used to because of Charlie. Because I gotta, when I'm out there, I'm thinking I gotta walk the dog and he has such a good time. But there's the other part of it. Now, I am going to say, you're making me think like today I got to get a bike ride in. I have to for
Friday. It's your Friday bike ride, man.
Yeah. So I have to, but I want to say on the other hand, like last night, Charlie and we go out to the lake across the street and just meet all these people, other dog people, other people that don't have dogs, but love dogs.
Isn't that cool?
Oh my God, and meet the nicest people. So we're out there for an hour and a beautiful evening, just jawing it up with really nice people.
I love that, Barry.
It's a whole nother side of things. Without Charlie, it was a different life. There's good.
I agree. When I had Stella, it was like I had this whole different life with this dog and I met all these people in the community just like you. And then when she passed away, it was like all my dog friends disappeared. Like and then I'd see them like a couple months later and they didn't recognize me anymore because I don't have my dog with me.
You're right. I was saying sad to Lisa, so in the mornings, we got in this routine where we go to the lake and a bunch of us, I've mentioned before, 5 to 10 of us, 5 to 10 dogs will be playing out there off leash, just having a great time. And I said to Lisa, when one of these dogs pass in our little group, it's going to be devastating for all of us.
I know. That's the thing about those
fallen in
dogs.
love with all these dogs, man. Yeah.
Oh, they steal your heart, man.
Oh, there's
the way they look at you right in the eyes. Come on.
There's this one dog, Murphy. He's a black dog. I think he's a mix. Kind of longer hair, medium size and everything. And he always runs up and greets me as Charlie and I are walking up. He's a lover. He's so nice. And he reminds me of a dog I grew up with. I mean, I love this dog so much that when he passes, I'll be broken. I'll just be totally
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I love animals. We have quite a few critters that keep coming into our backyard, bunnies and stuff.
Oh, nice.
All these, they're so adorable too. And these birds, we have all kinds of really cool birds here. One of my favorites is the Roadrunner. Those are intense. They're so cool. Anyway, so we have these doves here that live in this bush that's right next to my porch, and this one bird scares me every time. I keep forgetting that they have a nest right there, and I'll go to weed or something, and it'll make the pop, 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 and it startles me every time. I'm but I like it. There's a couple of birds. I know I can see the male and the female, and they got a little nest. It's amazing how you can't see that nest in there. But one day when last week when the birds, one of them startled me, I'm like, I bet you they're protecting some eggs in there. So I snuck my camera up through the bush and I took a picture, and sure enough, there are 2 beautiful white eggs up in there. Well, while I was in Albuquerque, a giant storm came by, and Anne Marie was filming it and showing me on my iPhone. This bush was getting blown around like crazy. And so the first thing I did when I got back was go back there and check it out. And the nest was obliterated.
Oh,
nothing left, man. Those birds are gone. It was a shame.
It is so
just how nature is like
that. Is nature's cruel.
It is. And but I'm sure that those two birds are okay, but that those eggs I don't think made it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they didn't. So I'm on the second floor here, and I got what we call my perch over here. It's an outdoor patio, and for years we would get two doves that come in and build a nest on top of a nest on top of a nest in this one corner. And well, I finally it is a high-rise condo at this point, and I think it was last fall after they were gone. I took them all out, figured they can start over now because they're hitting the ceiling.
Yeah, why are you doing
that? They haven't come back. But what I wanted to say is, like 2 years ago, so every year, two of these doves, big fat birds, would come and lay their eggs and do their thing for the summer. And the last time, which is about 2 years ago, I was sitting out there and just enjoying myself, and I actually got to see them fly away for the first time.
Wow,
leave the
that
nest.
Is so cool.
It was so cool because you know what? Periodically see them and see the mommy bird and both of them come by and feed the little ones.
Yes.
But to see them fly away, and they just did a nice big swooping arc and landed on the fence and got their act together.
That's really so cool. I love that. I saw a similar here last spring. There was a couple of doves, and they had two chicks, I guess. And they were walking around in my backyard. They couldn't fly yet. And so I would go out there to the trash that's on the side, and there'd be a bird right there. Not even just right within feet of me. Just wow. Hello. And then their parents would be up on the fence, like looking, hey, what are you doing? But it was like a really cool thing. And then I'd see them pretty soon. I'd see them because my property has like a fence all around it. I'd see the parents flying in and feeding them. That is a really neat thing, Barry.
It kind of is. It sounds so simple. There was a few years ago, I was sitting in the driveway just getting some sun, really chilling like this, and I hear this thunk, and I turn around, man, and it's this big eagle that's got this big squirrel, and he's just pulling its guts out and everything. It didn't care a bit about me sitting right there, like about probably 20 feet away. But that's close.
Anne Marie and I saw something similar to that in California. It was a hawk that had, I think it was a rat actually, flew up on top of the light post, like right above our car, and just started to tear that thing apart up there. It was insane. It was insane, man.
I hear that they'll get cats.
I could see how that could happen.
Yes,
those are sick. Quite fierce birds, man. I would not want to be the victim of one of those things.
I'll be honest with you. Like I was reaching for my camera real slowly and everything, and I just pictured this thing looks so fierce. Like I just pictured it looking at me and getting mad at me and just spreads his wings and come straight at me.
Just beak you right in the head.
Yeah, I totally could see that. But
I could see it too. I saw one night when I was walking Stella. I was walking through the neighborhood in California, and I stopped at this church, really quiet and everything, and I was standing next to a no parking sign. And I just casually looked up. It was only about 1.5 feet above my head, and there was an owl up there, giant.
Yeah, those are
just
big birds,
looking at me right in the eyes. And I remember when I felt like I was paralyzed by it with fear.
An apex predator there.
Yeah, and I was like. And I remember reflexively pulling Stella really close to me, like, don't hurt my dog. But then we both were frozen there. And then it raised its arms and just flew away. It was horrifying.
Yeah.
It was a really scary bird.
The lake I keep talking about right next to the Shaker Lake, the geese are out every time this year. They're raising their young, and they grow fast. But those are mean.
They can be so mean, hissing and coming at you with their neck all.
Yeah.
I don't. It's sort of infuriating that a goose would treat me like that. I remember I lived in a place where it was a lake, and these geese, they would be so mean, they'd just come after me. And when I'd come home and I'm paying for this and this, I started to feel like, I'll get you, goose.
That's
like, it's a bad feeling.
I got a story, but quick one. I used to work out at LA Fitness in Beechwood, and it's technically Lyndhurst, and the geese would apparently make a nest by where I'd park my bike. So I ride my bike there, and I was just like that. I'm like, I'm paying for this membership. You're not. I don't care if you're there. And I start to go to lock my bike up, and this goose comes flying at me. I mean, I lifted my bike and blocked him because he was going to with my bike. This girl is leaving at that time. It's beautiful summer day. She's leaving at that time in her truck, and I can tell she's on her phone, and she just dies laughing. Like
I would have loved to see that on video, man. That sounds hilarious.
Oh, it was. But that was kind of my eye-opening thing to geese. I didn't know before then just how.
I didn't know either until I moved into that apartment, and it was like every night these geese were coming after me, man. And I'm like, this is, I don't want to have to do anything bad, but
right. Yeah. How bad could they hurt you?
I know, right? They seem like they believe they could hurt you pretty bad.
They do.
That's the intimidating thing. Like if you just like gave it a little soccer kick,
punt it like a football. Yeah. You got any more current events or something?
No, I think we need to wrap her up here and get on with the weekend here. Yes. But this is, as usual, it's been so fun hanging out with you on the show.
Always so fun. Yeah, I think that we're usually a little bit more structured, but this was just a very fun, spontaneous conversation.
Yep. I think
covered a lot of ground. Yeah, if we could get those term limits installed, that would be a really good first step.
I agree. It can happen. I mean, if you take a look at, I think it's Article 5 of the Constitution, you'll see in there that the Convention of States could actually make that happen. You need 33 state legislatures to go ahead and agree on that, and it'll happen. And then when you start to look at the states right now and how they seem to have awakened to the fact that they're being attacked by the federal government. I see that these things can come to fruition very quickly. But again, it's about the people realizing it. First off, probably 95% of Americans have not read the Constitution. So for that would be number one, read that. And then see that now there's an instruction booklet on how we can actually change this around. There is hope.
Good. That's a good note to end on. I like it. There is hope. Great note to end on. All right, buddy. Had a blast. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you real soon.
Take care, Barry.
You too.